Hello!
Alright, that's Carson, and I'm Braiden. This is the half hour. We're gonna try and make it a half hour this time.
Fucking hell. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we saw Parasite, within the last week. We don't really do these very, very quickly after we watch it. But anyways,
Yeah.
We saw Wednesday, it's Sunday, we're here, we're doing it.
Was it Wednesday? I thought it was Thursday.
I don't know, man.
No,
it's so
okay,
long.
it was Wednesday. It was last
It's
Wednesday.
been a while. Okay.
It was last Wednesday.
Yeah, anyways, this is our podcast, half hour. We're gonna try and make it a half hour this time.
Okay, so yeah, this week we're talking about Bong Joon-ho's Parasite.
Yep.
And,
From Korea.
yeah, South Korean.
Yeah, it's South Korea.
Yeah, South
clear.
Korean movie about class.
Yep.
Just-
And stuff.
Yeah.
Class. And,
One second. I'm bringing something up. So talk about it while.
Should we restart or just
Yeah,
keep going?
well, I want to restart because I even fucked it up in the very beginning.
Well, that gives it some personality. I think we should just keep going.
I guess we're keeping going.
All right, so Carson's pulling up a summary right now. I think.
Oh, well, we're not
I'll
prepared.
wait for him for that.
Okay,
so,
we're not prepared
how was your day?
Okay, all employed.
Oh, okay, I'm done, I guess.
So this is a summary. Okay, so Parasite 2019. All unemployed key family takes peculiar interest in the wealthy in glamorous parks for their livelihood until they get entangled in an unexpected incident.
Okay, not gonna lie, that's an awful summary. You wanna find a better one? Okay, I'll try on my own. So
Okay, wait. Here
we got this family, right?
Greed
No,
and class
I'm doing this
discrimination threaten the newly formed
doing that now.
symbiotic
Okay.
relationship between the wealthy Park family and the destitute Kim clan. That sounds nothing.
No. So we got two families, right? One family is really poor, one family is really rich. This poor family works their way into working for the rich family without them knowing that they're all one family. And they're parasitic, basically, so they
They're
take advantage.
leeches. They leech off of the rich.
Yeah, the title of this film is very literal.
Parasite, yeah.
Well, almost literal. They're not actual,
There's no real
parasites.
there's no real heroes or villains here. They're all kind of just there, exist.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna jump in.
Yep.
We're already 3 minutes in. Kind of.
Hey, only 3 minutes. Feels like
We
it's been
kind of
5.
fucked up the intro completely, but
Right.
it's okay.
We're gonna keep rolling, though.
Okay, so initial thoughts.
I thought the whole thing was wild.
It was a fucking trip, to say the least, yeah.
I will say I think we've seen 2 very good movies in a row.
Did you... Okay, so there's a lot of different, emotions that that I've felt during this movie, and that went through our audience as well. Right. I remember there was one point where our audience laughed and then got shocked all in the span of 5 seconds.
Yeah, I don't even remember specifically when it was because I think that happened multiple times.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. There was laughter.
There's a lot of comedy, definitely a lot of suspense the entire time.
Yeah, there's intensity. There's there's sadness, happiness. There's scares. This movie literally has every emotion you can think of.
Right.
Just wrapped up into it. There's parts where you're even angry,
Right.
It's such a complex movie.
Yeah, and it's hard to really throughout the entire thing know who to really
root for.
Pick a side with.
Yeah.
Because you can see the point of view of both of the families, the good and the bad of what they're doing and who's benefiting and who's being harmed by the situation.
But the reason I like that about this movie is that's just kind of life,
Right.
That's how life is. There's no real good guys or bad guys. Everybody has their own motives, and everybody,
It's a very real movie. It has very real, not implications, but I guess implications. I mean, it's a very realistic film as far as the many aspects of being human.
There was a lot to it.
Yeah.
All right.
That was a lull. We're gonna keep going though.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think
we're both a little
tired.
out of it.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little tired. So the performances. I think the poor performances all around from every character in this. I mean, I don't think there's one performance in this that's not like spot on.
Yeah, no one really stood out to me as like not really selling their role.
And also,
I mean, I think if I had to pick a character who like I didn't like very much, which it really wasn't like based on her performance, it was probably like the maid that they originally had.
The maid, yeah.
Right.
Well, she was just kind of, I mean, that her presence was just kind of like, you know, that authority figure you kind of like about.
Maybe that's why I didn't like her.
That's probably why. And I don't know. That was
she did have a very important role though in the story.
She did. And
everyone really did.
Yeah, there's nobody in this film that doesn't have importance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone's character was really intertwined with the plot in an essential way, I feel like.
Yeah, and
like even their like Mr. Park's driver that they had, like he wasn't just there for the beginning. I mean he continued to be like referenced, and you know, I don't know, I felt like his performance was meaningful.
Yeah.
And it was
the one thing I was really nervous about this film going into it is I saw that it was 2 hours and 12 minutes long, and it's a South Korean film too, so I was really nervous I was going to end up zoning out through a good portion of the movie, considering I couldn't like take it in bursts, you know. I couldn't take it in like little bits at a time. It's, you know, you're sitting in a theater and you're watching all the way through.
Yeah, you can't pause and go back to see something that you missed.
Yeah, but I really I was really nervous I was going to zone out at one point, but I remember being completely engaged throughout the whole movie because it was such a it's really such an impressive like story, because it never really like never really leaves anybody out. Kind of like, or I have a word that I can't think of. Never really. You know what? Just fuck it. Let's move on.
Right, well, I'll say I think that the fact that the story was really engaging, and the fact that I can't understand Korean, the fact that I had to read the subtitles made it more engaging. Like, it kind of forces you to pay more attention, and I really appreciated that. It's kind of like an adverse effect. Like, it wasn't really intended to have that, you know, impact on you, but it did, and I appreciated it.
Which either way, I feel like the story itself is so...
Yeah, it supports itself. You don't need to have subtitles to be forced to pay attention.
Yeah, it just kind of, it just draws you in and keeps you the whole time, the entire time. I was, you know, completely... the movie completely had me, you know? Yeah, and like even the beginning scene, I was instantly like intrigued, you know?
Yeah, and I forget how it opens.
It opens with them in their house, the poor family.
Trying to get Wi-Fi.
They're trying to get Wi-Fi in their house, and it starts out with some really interesting shots of like them walking around the house and like interacting with their surroundings. It's just really impressive. All right, well, we're gonna move on to the next thing, which is about the technical stuff. Which the cinematography and and everything was actually really beautiful.
Yeah, my favorite thing was probably the set design. I mean, the house that most of the story is shot in is beautiful. Yeah. And they made very good use of the various locations within it.
Oh yeah, and plus every location in this film is nothing short. I mean, like, it just sets up everything, you know. Yeah. But the big thing about this film is the house, because the house is where everything happens, and where the idea. Well, not everything happens at the rich people's house.
I mean, you see the poor family's house, and I think that really cements the idea that this is a story of classes. Yeah. I mean, it shows the difference between the two. There's definitely a dichotomy that it.
But it's definitely some beautiful design. It's a beautifully designed house. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah,
and in the plot, it was the house of an architect who designed it himself, and I would definitely believe it.
Yeah, because it's
beautiful. I loved it.
It's really beautiful. And then after we finished watching the film, we actually went over and ate Panda Express. And the Panda Express that we went to, it literally looked like the house. It was.
I think they all kind of look like that, though.
Yeah, well, it really threw me off driving up to it, because I was like, "Holy shit! We're about to eat at the house."
And give us shit for eating, you know, Americanized Korean or Chinese food after watching a Korean film. I don't care. The ramen in the movie looked good, okay?
Yeah, the ramen in the movie looked really good, so I had it. We just took a trip.
Yeah, even though they don't even have ramen.
Yeah, it's chow mein. Okay, well, anyways,
that's a tangent.
I was gonna talk about the cinematography. There's one thing I want to talk about. That is, there's a shot, in the poorhouse during a spoiler, actually. So I'm gonna just kind of step around this, where it's inside water, and like while the water rises up over the lens of the camera, and so as it starts going underwater, it's like a key of the next shot in the water, and it's like an overhead shot of a family floating in the water on like a mattress with all their stuff on it.
It's almost reminiscent of a wipe cut, like something you'd see in a Star Wars film in the original trilogy.
A wipe, yeah.
But with more of a smoother transition.
Yeah, but it uses the last
uses
shot.
Elements within each shot to transition. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's very beautiful. I feel like I've seen something like it before, but it really worked here.
Yeah, I think this is probably, that transition was probably the best transition I've ever seen. I'm not even gonna lie, that was a really impressive transition, you know, and plus it just like it literally flowed into the next scene.
It's water. Water flows.
Yeah. And then all right, we're gonna talk briefly about the director, Bong Joon-ho.
You will. I don't really know much about him, so...
Okay, well, I'll sit here and talk about Bong Joon-ho for a second before we give our ratings and kind of go into spoilers, because we're not going to sit here and talk as much as we did with The Lighthouse. Because we're already 12 minutes in, so let me go ahead and jump into Bong Joon-ho. Bong Joon-ho is probably one of the most popular, probably the most popular South Korean director, and he's done so many films, and even did an American film not too long ago. He did Snowpiercer. You know that?
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, he directed Snowpiercer, but the film I've never seen that. The film that I have seen from him, which I watched last month before going and seeing this, was The Host, which is a giant monster movie that he made back in 2006 or 2007, and it's not as much about it's the closest movie I've ever seen get to the original Godzilla, because it doesn't focus as much on the monster as it does on the disaster idea of like American, like, because the Americans create this monster pretty much, like they put like this pollution in the South Korean waters, and that's what creates the monster. So it's like the same idea of like Americans always having this corrupt like overwatch of South Korea and stuff like that, and there's so much that leads into it, and it even ends on such a down note, and it's a very difficult film to watch, just like Parasite. And you can see a lot, I could tell a lot of watching Parasite from themes and stuff that were in The Host, you know. It's a lot of the same, you know, idea. And he also did another movie, or he did a couple other movies that I've heard great things about. I think it's Memories of Murder and Barking Dogs Never Bite or something like that. Supposedly those two films are like some of his best works, but I've never seen any of those. I just watched The Host because I'm a big giant monster movie fan. I've heard good things about that one. Alright, but Bong Joon-ho, he's a great director. He made probably his best movie so far, other than, I haven't seen all of his movies, so I don't know, but I've heard people say that from...
This one on its own, at least, is really good.
Well,
so.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It really is. All right, well, we're going to go into our ratings, and so we can keep up with our time and meet our 30-minute. We're going to go into our spoilers right after the ratings, and just make this one podcast with spoilers and non-spoiler stuff. So... we're going to start off with our letter grade of Parasite.
So we can go 3, 2, 1, both say it at the same time?
I think we should go one or the other, because I'm going to be set in stone either.
I think we did the same
we did the same
last time.
Yeah, we said the same thing last time, but it's
right.
okay.
Anyways, who wants to go first then?
Alright, I'll just go first. I'd give it an A+.
I was thinking the same exact thing. really.
There's no way. I couldn't give it anywhere lower than an A+, because it's just so captivating.
Yeah, and you're gonna think, I mean, this is only our second podcast we've given both films A's. We're just, praising every film we watch, but really, I mean, these films are both deserving of it. The Lighthouse and Parasite, I mean, they're just really masterpieces overall.
Which I don't usually go. Don't usually go to movies unless they're. I've just been hearing really amazing things about them, so it's really hard for me to go see a movie and not love it.
Yeah, and this year, overall, has just been great for.
Yeah, it has
these styles of movies. Not exactly in the mainstream, but a little indie.
Yeah, it has been a great.
Director,
it's been an amazing year for film. From Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to, we've had great, big budget films too, like Joker, which is a really odd movie to be making this much money, and stuff like that. But it's been, it really is a great year for cinema. Yeah. So, alright, so we're gonna go into our star rating now. And you go first on this one.
I mean, 5 stars.
It's obvious, yeah.
I don't think we could argue on that.
If 5 stars for both of us. That's what I'm saying. 5 stars for both of us, completely. I could not give it even anywhere lower than that. That's a solid 5 stars. I mean, it's impossible to go lower, because this film is just such an amazing movie. It's hard for me to sit here and be like, oh, this is wrong with it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really pinpoint anything that I thought didn't fit or didn't work in the film. I mean,
even with The Lighthouse, which we thought was near perfection, we could go, oh well, it was hard to understand them at points. There's certain things about it that I just didn't really it was hard to follow at some points.
Hey, this movie had subtitles though, so that's a little different.
Yeah, this movie that's true. This movie did have subtitles, but at the same time, it's that makes it even harder for us to really pinpoint anything. Actually,
right.
I do have one thing. I do have one issue. One little minute issue is the way that it's just the way of Korean storytelling. It's where they give plot points in dialogue.
Oh, right. Instead of showing it through scenes.
Yeah, they just
say it.
They say what they're what they're doing, pretty much.
Another thing to do with dialogue, and I guess this is just a fault of me not knowing Korean and how to understand it, is that you can't exactly pick up the tone of what they're saying, because you're reading it, you're not hearing the same inflections that you recognize in English.
Yeah, so you're just reading. You're reading the words you think they're saying at that.
And that's a fault of my own. That's not a problem with the film itself. I wouldn't say.
It's hard for us to really know the performance other than their facial expressions. Right. It's hard to know the vocal performance other than.
And there were a few Korean viewers, I think, in our audience.
Yeah, there was, actually.
Reacted and helped, I think, with a few of the things.
Yeah, honestly, you feed off each other's reaction to things, because there was a lot of laughter in our theater and a lot of shock that I heard. And it was a very responsive and respectful theater. At one point,
I guess it doesn't really have to do anything with dialogue, but I think whenever... well, it'd be a spoiler to say it, but at one point, this lady in front of us, I think she was Korean, she was so shocked, she put her hands on her head, very
she
emotionally.
She did. She went, yeah, I know. I remember seeing that. I was like, oh man, it's
I think she was there just because it was a foreign film.
Yeah,
not American,
that's why
didn't expect it.
Yeah, that's how I felt about a few people there. Because I was like, I'm sure some people were like, oh, I heard there's this Korean film showing in a...
I think we should talk about the theater experience for films from now on.
Yeah,
so I think that's important.
We'll do it right before ratings. Yeah. From now on, we'll start doing theater experiences.
So I'd say for this, the theater experience was pretty good. I mean,
it's probably one of the best I've had in a long time.
Yeah. It wasn't a full house. It was probably about halfway full.
Yeah.
A little over.
Yeah. We had a bunch of people kind of spread out. There was a good amount of people there though for what I was expecting. I was expecting
for being a Wednesday or maybe a Thursday. I don't really know.
Yeah, it was a Wednesday, but
it was pretty full, and it was very rainy that night too. So
yeah, it was
good showing,
and it was really good because the audience was super respectful.
Yeah. Everyone was responsive, but in the appropriate times.
Yeah, they weren't talking or anything. They were just they were having.
Well, I will say there were people kicking our seats randomly, but I was able to tone it out.
Yeah, well, there was this dude behind us who kept bumping into our seats constantly, And we were like, the whole thing, I kept looking back at him. I'm like, dude, are you gonna stop? And he kind of had his foot like right next to my head too, so it was kind of. That's the one thing. That dude behind me was kind of the one issue I had with the theater experience.
We'll have to watch ourselves talking about the theater experience.
Okay. We need one more rating. One more rating. That's our percentage.
This one I think we might differ on because there's so much more range. Definitely going to be in the 90s for both of us.
Yeah. I'm giving it a 98.
I was thinking 97. Which, I mean, I don't really have much of a justification for it being 1 point different than yours, but I think...
But that...
it's within that range, I mean...
98 is...
Nothing's ever going to be 100%.
Honest,
truly.
I'm sure at some point, if I'm completely sold and completely, like, captivated, I might give something 100%.
Yeah, I think once I've had more... exposure to film, I mean, because obviously, I mean, right now, anytime we talk about film, half the time I'm like, I haven't seen that yet, I need to.
Dude,
like, once I have more experience, I'll be able to
it's really hard to give a movie 100%. I have to literally be like, this is gonna be like one of my new top 10 favorite films for me to give it 100%, you know?
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to go and see a movie for the first time and be like 100% because there's so many different things about it that I can't just do that.
Yeah, you'd have to be like, you'd have to be coming into it without like focusing on criticizing it at all.
But still, a 98% is a very, very strong score. I mean,
it's a very strong film.
Yeah,
definitely deserving of it.
All right, so we're gonna go into our spoiler section now, since we're we need to get going.
Yeah, we got about 8 minutes left.
Okay. And we have a lot to talk about in the spoiler section. So I mean, we better jump right in.
Yeah, got some pointers here.
Okay, so we're gonna start off with the idea. So the way the Kim family get into the Park family. So pretty much the way they do it is, okay, so the son, he talks to the daughter, the rich daughter's...
The poor son?
Yeah, the poor son talks to the rich daughter's, like, boyfriend crush or something like that.
It's her tutor.
Her tutor, yeah. Her tutor is, like, leaving out of country, and he talks to the poor son and is like, hey, I want you to, go help her and stuff because I don't trust
He wants... okay, so the poor son's friend was tutoring the rich girl, and he wants his friend, who is the poor son to tutor for this rich family's daughter.
Because...
There we go.
Yeah, because...
Not knowing the names...
Yeah, because he doesn't want... Yeah. He doesn't want his drunk friends to go and be hitting on...
So the poor son isn't in college. He's just working like the rest of his family is. But his friend trusts him enough to tutor for this girl because he knows English pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so one by one after that, they slowly start working in every family member. And each time it's always so fun. They drag this one out for a little bit.
Yeah, probably over the course of like 30 minutes, I'd say.
Yeah,
but it's all engaging. It's not just like dragging on.
Yeah, it's really...
It's a lot of deception. There's a lot of like planning that goes into it. I mean, you see the father and the son of the poor family practicing like lines for like how they're gonna get the mother into it. It's like through this conversation while Mr. I can't remember the names. But while the poor father is driving the rich family's father, Mr. Park. He's discussing with him, like, getting a new housekeeper and all of that.
Yeah.
Talking about
and they use
this girl they know.
So the way they get the original housekeeper fired is she is allergic to peaches. So they get the shavings off Peaches, and then they flick it onto the back of her neck as they walk by her.
It's a really beautiful scene because it's in like slow motion.
Yeah, I know, and you can see every little speck, little like as it flies out on the back of her neck. Pretty well. It was.
It might be one of those, CGI so well you don't even notice it's CGI.
Yeah,
so
but it was really like
it fit.
It was really impressive. And then you also had the way they got the driver fired is by the poor daughter leaving her panties underneath the seat, and then And then Mr. Park comes home and he's like, I can't believe he freaking had sex with this lady on my back seat. Yeah. He's like, I was sitting in his cum and stuff like that.
Yeah, he got very descriptive verbally about what might have happened.
Yeah, so that's pretty much how... every time one of them gets fired, they kind of like act like they just happen upon the next person, even though it's just the next member of the family and stuff like that.
Yeah, they act like it's just like this person they've heard of who's like good at their craft, whatever it is.
Yeah,
but it's really there.
And that's how. Members. So that's how the whole story gets set up and put into place. Yeah. And then
I love that entire sequence.
Yeah, that whole because it's really repetitive if you really think about it, but when you're watching it, it's so entertaining because every time they do it in a completely different way.
Right.
So I found those scenes super entertaining.
Yeah, they're very engaging as far as like getting the idea across of what they're doing, like how they're deceiving this entire family with their entire family.
Yeah, and the poor family is really in control up until a certain scene.
Which you can talk about now.
Okay, which we're going into it. Yeah, up until the rich family goes on a camping trip. So the rich family leave and goes, and it just happens to be on the night of a really bad rainstorm. But the poor family is like all like spending the night in this that really big, beautiful house, and they're sitting down around the table and stuff, drinking a ton of booze and enjoying themselves. And what the fuck are all these people kind of driving by? It's always the same house right here too. They're throwing me off my game. 1 second. All right, but yeah, so they're drinking booze and making a huge mess of the living room, and then all of a sudden they hear the doorbell ring, and they're like, "Oh shit, dude, what's going on?"
It's no one else besides the old housekeeper they got out of there through deception. Yeah,
the person they
got fired.
And she has all this like these puffs on her face and stuff from having an allergic reaction, and she says she needs something out of the basement.
Yeah, she said she left something in the basement.
Yeah, she's like, I left something in the basement. I need to go. Yeah, she's like, I need to go grab it real quick.
And then it's her fucking husband.
wait. Okay, well.
Sorry, I kind of rushed into that.
You really did rush into that. Well, I wanted to explain it, how it happens, because it's such an. Oh my god. So they let her. They let her in, and they're like, okay, go down there and get what he forgot. And she's down there for like a really long time. Yeah. A really long time.
Like a whole minute goes by on screen before they go down.
And I'm sure in the movie it was a lot longer because you see them like what the fuck, just go down there, you know? And then the poor mom walks down there and goes around the corner, and she's like up. What? What is going on?
I don't know. There's people walking.
Okay, there's some weird shit going on around us. Just 1 second.
Yeah.
What the fuck? 1 second. Okay, they're going to their house.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just gonna lock the doors real quick. All right, carry on.
Okay. All right. No. Okay, we're continuing on. So they go around the corner, and the old housekeeper is up on the it's like the china cabinet.
Yeah, well, it's like their pantry basically.
Yeah, it's kind of like a pantry, and she's like got her feet up on the wall, and she's pushing with her hands up against the.
Yeah, she's like fully in the air, like pushing with her legs in her hands.
And it's so absurd when you first see it, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And then all of a sudden, like,
she's like, I need help.
Yeah, they fix it, and then they push it open, and they get in there. And there's a whole underground tunnel leading underneath the house.
Yeah.
And her husband is living in it.
Yeah. And he's apparently been stuck down there for the entire time.
And he hadn't been eating for weeks. He hadn't been eating for weeks.
I don't think it was weeks. It was like...
It had been a while.
Week. I don't know. Yeah. I don't remember exactly.
But yeah, they go to... So pretty much...
Yeah, that was kind of like the first like super suspenseful moment.
And super shocking moment, too.
Yeah, because you think it's going to turn really dark for a second, because you don't know where that tunnel's leading.
Yeah, you have no idea.
it's a while before you, like, get down to, like, the actual room at the end of it.
And that's the first big shift in tone, is right whenever she opens that door and she goes underneath, is whenever you're like, oh shit, what is going on, dude?
Yeah.
and then they go down there, and the wife is the first one to go down there, and she's like not cooperating at all. She's like, I'm calling the police on you guys, I'm doing this and that. And then meanwhile, the rest of her family already came down and is like listening to them, and they all fucking fall down and like show themselves.
They hadn't revealed themselves yet, and then they just stumble out.
Yeah, and then they both realize that they're both been fucking screwing over these rich people, but they're underground underneath the house, so it like is very like kind of symbolic of the fact that they're like parasites, you know? Right.
Yeah, they're just kind of scurrying in the unseen areas.
Yeah, so they're both feeding off of this family, you know, so much, and It's a great scene, and then it just gets really weird for a second. Yeah. Like I remember they go back up and they talk about their record and stuff like that, and they like hold the poor family hostage for a little while. Yeah. Because with the video,
they get video of the poor family just like all there in the bunker, which to me. Okay, that part kind of didn't make sense to me, because by having that video of them in the bunker, they're revealing that had been down there too.
Yeah, that they're down in the bunker
she's fucking them both over, not just the poor family.
But at the same, that's what I was thinking. So wouldn't they both be like a catch-22? That's what I was thinking too when I was sitting there. I was like, maybe, wouldn't that be like a catch-22 where they're both kind of like...
Yeah, so I guess that's one thing that I can criticize about the film.
So they're like, well, if you tell this about me, then I still have stuff on you. So they're kind of like, well, we can live in harmony, you know? But no, then that wouldn't end in the fucking wild ass scene that did happen.
Yeah. Where, so you want to talk about the birthday party scene now? We got a little bit more build up.
Wait. We still have some more, but before that, we have a while. Okay, we'll go ahead and build it up a little bit. So pretty much they get out of hostage. Being held hostage, and like they start fighting the housekeeper and her husband, and like fight them, and then pour fucking peaches on her face during the fight.
Throw like at least like 4 peaches at her, just like smother her in it, and
it's fucking wild. It's fucking wild, because you're like, holy shit, dude, they just fucking killed her.
Yeah, the table is turning very fast.
Alright, and then the family calls, the rich family calls, and they're like, okay, we're coming home. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah, in the middle of this entire fight, the phone just starts ringing.
And they're like...
And so the current housekeeper from the poor family goes and answers it, and it's like there's tension all around, but she doesn't show that, you know, through speaking. She's just like, what's going on?
Yeah, and then they're like, okay, well, let's take them down, you know, put them down in there and get the stuff ready and clean up this mess. And then they show up back at the house, and they get it done just in time, and they're like, the poor family's like hiding underneath tables and like
they're all underneath this one coffee table in the living room.
Oh wait, no, they're all kind of spread out to begin with. Like the son is like hidden underneath the daughter's bed, the rich daughter's bed.
Right, yeah.
And then the husband is somewhere else, and then at the end they all converge underneath that table. But anyways, so it's just like it's constant intensity during this scene, because one thing after another they're trying to get out of this house.
But the husband was down in the bunker with the 2.
Oh yeah, it was down in the bunker.
Keeping them like constrained and like getting them all tied up and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they eventually work their way all to underneath the coffee table. And that's where...
and one scene I want to talk about before we go into the like last little bit of the intense scene. Whenever the fucking the part I was talking about where the people were laughing, and then like we're like it's whenever the fucking old housekeeper started running up the stairs and tried to run out and like show herself to and the new housekeeper just kicks her down the stairs, and she fucking flips down the stairs, and the audience starts fucking laughing, and then all of a sudden, boom,
she's just fucking done.
It's like boom, and she fucking hits her head on the wall, and you're like, oh fuck, she's dead.
Yeah.
And then they like take her downstairs and stuff. And yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty much from there, Well, she didn't die right on the spot. She like died later on. She died later on while the husband was tied up down there, and he's like sitting there like hitting his head on the lights trying to get somebody down there. Remember, because he's like crying like, come on, like somebody help, because she's like sitting there. She's like, oh, I have a concussion, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, so they do end up getting out. But there's like a really intense part where the son is like, he's like finally he's like the last one to be leaving, and then he falls to the floor whenever they wake up, and he's just like laying there on the ground while they're like sitting there talking to their son and whatnot. After
I thought it was the father of the poor family who was like scurrying himself out there and then just had to stop and stand still. I don't know, it doesn't matter who it was.
Okay,
anyways,
it doesn't
was
matter.
a tense moment though.
All right, it was really intense, but they
it's right there in the open.
Yeah, but they did end up escaping, and it was raining and flooding like crazy outside, and I don't know. I felt that too.
Is it you?
It might have been me. Anyways, let's.
Sorry, we keep getting distracted.
I know there's so much shit that happens in this movie, dude.
Yeah.
All right, and next they go into.
We thought this was actually going to be 30 minutes.
We really thought this was going to be 30 minutes.
We're looking at maybe 45. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we better get going if we really want to meet 35. Oh my! Yeah. So many cars are passing by. It's so late, dude. Well, at least feels like it.
It's only 7.
It's not even 7 yet.
Alright, anyways.
Okay. Alright.
So, we've got the scene in the living room. Then after that...
Alright, the scene in the living room, and then we go into...
Is it the next day the birthday party happens?
No, yeah, it's the next day, but we got to talk about how they go back to their house.
Oh, yeah, right.
This is probably the saddest scene in the whole movie, other than the ending. Mm-hmm. The saddest scene in the whole movie, they're coming back to their house, and they notice that their little neighborhood is, like, flooding really bad, and everybody's freaking out and pulling all their bikes and stuff, and, like, all their electronics out of their houses and their, like, valuables. Mm-hmm. And they're all, like, freaking out, like, really bad. And then they realize that at the end of the street is their house, which is in a basement,
even lower,
which it's lower than where everybody's like pulling everything out from.
So by the time they get in there, it's above full. Chest level. It's like shoulder level for both of them.
And it's very emotional because you can see them grabbing like photo albums and stuff like that.
There's all of these sentimental objects that we've seen previously throughout the film, like this fortunate rock that they had gifted to them,
the rock,
the father's medals that he got when he was in the military, I believe.
Yeah,
I think. But yeah, it was a really heart-wrenching scene because I mean, when you see something like that, you imagine yourself in that situation, all of your things just being destroyed by something you can't even control. Yeah.
And it's so emotional watching the dad of the poor family rummaging through everything and them like panicking, and then whenever he looks around before they leave, and it's up to neck level by this point, and you can just see like the tears welling up in his eyes. And there's a really beautiful shot of the daughter sitting up on the toilet.
So the toilet was just spewing out water because this was all sewage water. It wasn't just from the rain.
Poop. Like we was spewing out poop.
And she was just wrestling to get it shut, and she finally just sat on top of it, and she pulled out some cigarettes she had hiding in the ceiling tiles, and there was a shot of her just sitting there,
smoking.
Yeah.
And it was really beautiful.
Yeah.
And then whenever they're leaving and stuff, this is the point where it's just
after that they made their way back to a gym.
Oh yeah,
kind of set up
they have to go
as like a
where they had everybody staying there.
Yeah, everyone whose homes were affected, they were staying there
and sleeping on the floor of this gym.
I forgot about this. I didn't really think about it much. This is where the conversation was between the father and the son.
That's what I was gonna say.
About plans.
Yeah, I know. This is probably one of the best like lines of dialogue I've heard in a long time. I mean, because he says like don't make plans and stuff like that. Yeah. And he also says, do you think anybody planned to be sleeping in this gym tonight? But look at us, And it's
he talked about like no plan is I can't think of the words. Like no plan is faultless. Like it's
because then you won't be disappointed.
The fact that you have a plan means that something can go wrong.
Yeah.
And so if you just go about life without a plan, then nothing really goes wrong. You can just,
Yeah.
You can improvise on the spot because you didn't plan for anything else, did you?
Yeah.
It was worded a lot better than that in the movie.
Yeah, I know,
I'll say,
yeah.
But it was definitely something that really, it stuck with me, I think.
And yeah, and I forgot about this part. Or earlier on in the movie, they have the guy who keeps peeing throughout the movie.
Yeah,
and there's a really fun scene where they're like trying to get him to leave and stuff, and then the son gets water poured on him. So I just bring that up because I really like that scene.
Yeah.
All right, and then let's go into this is where we go into the birthday scene, which is the climax of the film.
Yeah, and I'd say probably like the most like memorable thing from it because there's so much shit that goes down. I mean.
Oh, and also before we jump into this, they kind of bring up Braiden just drew a penis on the window.
You didn't have to mention that, okay?
Okay. Anyways, so but before we go into this, I do want to mention the part where they the rich mom actually brings up that the son saw a ghost.
Yeah, so whenever he was younger, I think they said it was in like first grade or something.
Yeah.
He had seen a ghost in their house on his birthday because whenever he snuck out late at night to the kitchen to eat his birthday cake. And so beyond, like, after that point, they never had birthday parties at their house for good reason.
Yeah.
We see in the next scene. But yeah, that ghost that he had seen was actually the previous housekeeper's husband sneaking out and scaring him for whatever reason.
Yeah, and it's so funny because all you can see is his eyes.
Yeah, he just lifts himself over the edge of the stairs from the pantry, like ever so slowly, and like his eyes are so wide open, like just terrifying. I don't know what it is
so
about
funny.
it,
but it's so funny at the same time.
Yeah.
But and you can tell it's trying to be comedic too.
Yeah, it's trying to be like spooky and funny at the same time.
Yeah, it's like creepy, but it's funny too, you know. All right, but anyways, so the birthday scene.
Yeah. So after their failed, camping birthday trip, we get to this.
So pretty much what happens is you can tell the poor father is at this point kind of done with it, kind of fed up with the rich family and kind of fed up with the idea of rich and poor, because he had just witnessed his house, being swallowed by all these floods.
It's because of neglect from, the upper class.
Yeah, and the fact and it just kind of rubs it in his face when he has to go and help prepare for this birthday party that has to be perfect and has to have all this extra stuff or else. And
throughout the entire day leading up to the birthday party, him and his wife, the housekeeper, they're both following both of the parks, getting everything set up for this, and it's like there's just so much planning that goes into it. Like they put an exorbitant amount of effort into it.
Yeah, and it
just builds up his tension.
It's also material too.
Yeah, it's all very material.
All the rich families just builds up all this material idea into this birthday party, and it has to be perfect for them. It has to be perfect.
All of these pompous things. They're like, our son loves Native Americans right now, so we're gonna have all of these, a teepee, and we're gonna make a whole show of, attacking, some other Indians, a good Indian and a bad Indian, whatever.
And if you really think about it, it's kind of like they're making a mockery of the poor.
Yeah.
If you think about it, because if you compare it to like the American Indian,
they're mocking the unfamiliar.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Because if you compare it to like American society and like the rich and poor idea, and then like the Pilgrims and the Indians and whatnot, and how Pilgrims treated Indians, and just was like, get the fuck out of here, we own this.
They were seen as like a thing of entertainment, not really something to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
And that's shown here too.
Yeah, and that's how the poor are treated, in this film.
It's the idea that they're kind of detached from reality at this point, because they're so rich.
Yeah.
They just see it as a thing of entertainment.
And they don't even recognize that such an awful thing has happened in their community. The next day after such an awful thing has happened in their community, they don't even really recognize or care.
Right.
Alright, and then, so, the husband of the housekeeper, the original housekeeper, breaks out of the underground.
Mm-hmm.
And...
the first thing he does is smashes the son of the poor family's head with a rock. Not once, but twice. And, like, with that first blow, I thought he killed him. With that second blow,
I thought
he definitely killed him.
With that second blow, I was like, he's dead. Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah. So we'll talk more about that later. But after that, he goes through. He escapes. He gets out of the house and into the backyard where they're having the party.
And before he goes in the backyard, he grabs a knife from the kitchen.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah, that's very important. And he goes into the backyard and sees the poor family who had killed his wife.
Mm-hmm.
So he takes his...
Go ahead. Sorry, I was about to jump the gun.
Okay, you're good. So he takes his knife, he walks up to the daughter of the poor family and stabs her right in the chest, and she falls straight to the ground. And behind her is the little boy from the rich family, and he has a seizure, which he had earlier on.
Yeah, he recognizes the face of this man as he was the ghost he had seen.
They even mention earlier on that they have to, when he has a seizure, they have to get him to the hospital in 15 minutes or he could die.
Yeah.
So they instantly, everybody starts panicking because the father of the poor daughter jumps down on her and starts like pushing down like on the wound and stuff like that. And then the husband and wife of the rich family is trying to get the dad of the poor family to go and drive them to the hospital.
He's their driver, right? And I think after he had attacked the daughter, he gets to the mother of the poor family.
Mother. Yeah, he starts like wrestling on the ground with the mother of the poor family, and then she eventually stabs him in the side with the sausages that they were cooking.
Yeah,
with the hot dogs, I think. Yeah, it was like
I can't think of the word, but like one of those really long, pointy sticks
that they use to grill hot dogs and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, he gets impaled with that, and he falls. He dies.
This is the start of the turning point for the father of the poor family.
Yeah, and so he, but also there's like everything interweaves so perfectly in this scene that it's so hard to describe with words. Like the fact that he, the father of the poor family pulls out the keys and throws them to, the father of the rich family.
Yeah, and then he just steps over the poor father's dead wife to grab the keys.
Yeah.
Right?
What? Not.
I thought you did.
No, she didn't die. The wife doesn't die.
No, she doesn't.
So
Sorry.
What happens? What happens is okay. So he didn't die yet. The what's his name didn't die yet. So pretty much they did fall on the keys. And the housekeeper's husband was like a huge fan of him, is sitting in the like underground and always like worships him like every night.
He saw him as an idol.
And he says, I'm dying. He looks up at the rich family's dad and he's like, I'm dying for you. Please give me respect. You know, he's like, please respect me. And he just kind of looks over him and grabs the keys and just kind of like shakes his head at him like, this is fucking crazy, dude. And then this is where the poor family's dad is sitting there holding on to his daughter's chest, who had just gotten stabbed, and he stops and he stands up and grabs the knife and stabs the rich family's dad and kills him.
Yeah. At this point he had seen the neglect that they had for the poor, because he just completely ignored everything that I'm just gonna call him the guy with the knife.
Yeah.
The husband from the bunker had said, which, I mean, obviously he was kind of crazy at that point. I would probably ignore him too, but like everything else that had built up to that moment finally just made him snap, I think, and realize what disparity there was.
It's such a hard scene to watch too, because it's like one after another something awful happens, and it's so hard to take in it all. But it's such an amazing scene. It's such like a holy shit. It was choreographed
very well, like the entire sequence of events.
The attention to detail in that scene is so meticulous and so important, because it wouldn't have worked if they wouldn't have had those little things like them falling on the keys and stuff like that. Because it made
there were a lot of little things that played into it.
It made you so invested, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so then the father kills the other the rich dad, and they pretty much run away.
Mm-hmm.
He runs off.
He disappears.
Yeah, he runs off and disappears, and then go like months later, I think it is, and
I don't know if, yeah, I'll say it was months.
I think it's like a few months later or something like that.
By the way, after a undisclosed amount of time, we see the son of the poor family wake up in a hospital bed.
Yeah,
laughing
after brain surgery. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
So he actually does survive after the rock is slammed on his head twice. Yeah,
but yeah, he made it somehow.
Yeah, and pretty much by then it's like that he's in custody and stuff, and he goes on trial with his mom. And at first I think, oh yeah, his dad's in prison. That's what I thought at first. I was like, yeah, his dad's in prison already, and they're just trying them, you know, trying to get some charges on them.
Right.
And they kind of get probation, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
They get probation for killing anybody or anything like
for
that.
A while,
but it was
to
for
see if they knew about their father.
Yeah, but it was for identity theft or something like that, and like
falsification of documents.
Yeah.
And just like stuff like that, like all of the things that they had used to get themselves in the position they were at the rich family's house doing those jobs, they were charged for.
Yeah, but they didn't get charged for anything like super serious. But anyways, they pretty much they're looking everywhere for their dad. They don't know where their dad is at all. What the fuck is up with this fucking? I don't know if this is picking it up on the thing.
There's a charger just revving its engine in front of us.
Yeah, we're in a fucking neighborhood right now. Right?
Anyways, let's try and finish this because we're definitely over time now.
I know. All right. So
no longer the half hour.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's okay. But anyway, so it goes into all this different stuff with the ending, and then a long time passes. It's like a really long time later, and so. This needs a little bit more backstory. There's so much to this movie. It's so hard to like describe it.
There's so much that goes on in like the last 20 minutes, like as far as like how it, like, I don't know, just like unfolds and like leaves itself off. Yeah. So earlier in the movie, the way the husband of the housekeeper communicates is through Morse code. By banging his head on this light. He bangs his head on this light in the bunker, which somehow controls the light in the entryway.
I think it's like a fuse or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's really cool story build-up. But, so, in the last couple scenes of the film, I think the son of the poor family is walking up in this forest above the house, and he's like getting a good look at the house, and sees the people now living in it, and he sees the light flickering. And then he's like, then he realizes, you know, like, my dad's living in that bunker, you know?
Yeah.
And he starts writing down the Morse code and stuff like that, and like, he's like, dash, dot, dash, dot, dot, and stuff. Yeah. And then he gets on the bus and he starts like figuring it all out, and he it's a whole note for him that his dad's been playing every single night.
It was
since
like a whole
the incident.
Paragraph, at least.
It was it might have been a couple paragraphs because it was really long, but it was a really great way to end off. And then he makes one for his dad. And
I forget. Did he just write it down?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I think he tried to do Morse code or something. Like that.
He ended it off saying. Like someday in the future, I'm gonna buy that house. I'm gonna go to school, get a proper education, get a job, and come back and buy this house.
The right way.
You can come back out of that bunker to your family.
And you don't have to hide.
Yeah, so it's kind of like an open-ended letter. Like he doesn't specifically write it and show it to him.
At first, you think it's really happening, and you're watching it, and you're like,
the story it unfolds in front of you, like this fantasy.
this fantasy.
Then you realize that it is a fantasy because you see him writing it again in their house.
Yeah, and it ends off with maybe one day,
Yeah.
And it's still him sitting in that poor family's house, and it ends off on the socks and like hanging to dry, like it started off with.
I only remember that because he said pair of socks.
Oh yeah, because
it started.
When it was starting, it said Parasite, and then I saw the sites, the fucking socks.
There was like a pair of socks just like hanging to dry there right in the frame, and Carson had to lean over and say, pair of socks. That's the one thing I remember about the movie.
Yeah. All right.
Anyways,
well, we finally got to the end of the film. We spoiled it to death, and I mean, we did our best to put it together in one thing.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Now, at first, I really didn't really dislike it, but the ending didn't sit well with me because it felt too definite. Like, I felt like it didn't really leave anything to the viewer's imagination. But the more I thought about it, I mean, we're left with the idea that the son has brain damage, so we don't truly know, whether or not he actually saw, the Morse code being just displayed by his father in the house, or that even, we don't truly know, like, what he actually saw, because it could all be through the lens of his eyes, or it could be truly, third-person perspective.
Yeah.
So I did like it once I thought of that being indefinite.
Yeah, which, I mean, it is really open-ended, because, I mean, like, it's not saying that doesn't happen.
Right.
But it's saying it hasn't happened yet, If it is going to happen, we just don't know if it will or not, because it's kind of like the thing of the future's the future. We don't know what's going to happen then.
Right.
Or... that's his dream to, make money the right way and get that house. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, it's pretty far-fetched of an idea.
Yeah, at this point it is, at least.
Especially...
so much shit had gone down.
Especially the fact that, I mean, there's a family living there now,
Yeah.
But it is a very impressive ending, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it worked very well.
Dude, that fucking car, dude. It flew by.
Okay, Carson's very fascinated by all the cars passing around.
Dude, there's so many.
Maybe we should stop filming or recording this in a car.
Okay, yeah. So we're concluding this podcast.
We're gonna have to change the name of this because it hasn't been a half hour at all.
Yeah, we haven't ever done a half hour completely because I mean we just keep rambling on about these movies. I could talk probably another hour about this movie because there's really like so much to it that we didn't touch on.
Mm-hmm. I know. After the night of watching it, like, I kind of forgot to think about it, but now that we're talking about it again, I'm just, like, picking it apart again in my brain, and because there's a lot there.
And because we never really sat down and talked about it completely. We're going to
need to find a balance between, like, sitting with the movie for a few days and coming back to do the podcast and, like, discussing it beforehand. So
I think we should definitely... we should come more fresh than...
Yeah, so we're gonna try and do this sooner after we watch the next movie.
Yeah, because this next week we're seeing 2 movies this next week, and we'll try to do reviews for both of them pretty quick. I don't really want to have them be really stretched out like this one is. If we can make it, more condensed.
That'd be great.
But we will be the next podcast will be over Dr. Sleep and Jojo Rabbit.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm very excited for Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah, so stay tuned for those 2, and those should be coming out soon. Thank you guys for listening again.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking around for longer than a half hour.
Yeah, almost a full hour.
Yeah, Jesus, again.
All right. See you next time.
See ya.